Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry, bringing you my first live show. I'm a little nervous, but hey, we're gonna get through it here. So I just wanted to kind of recap what we saw this weekend from Ohio State and what that means for them going forward. Obviously, they had a big win this weekend over Western Kentucky. Looks like 63-10. There was a lot of good things. I do want to talk about some of those good things, and then I also had a couple things that are concerns for me going forward. The first segment here, I wanted to get into just grading out each position. Obviously, each most of these people are going to grade out really well this week because of just how it went. So we'll get into that, and then I actually think I had everybody graded at least a B. So let's get into that. All right, so the first position, obviously the one that everybody loves to talk about, the quarterback position. Kyle McCord starting QB1. I think he played really well. Obviously, he did make some mistakes. He had the overthrow to, I think it was Julian Fleming on third down, and then he got sacked and fumbled. All right, sorry, something popped up here for me. Okay, cool. He got sacked and fumbled, and lost the ball, so created a turnover there. He did bounce back. I felt like Kyle McCord overall played really well. I do think that they didn't ask him to do much. I mean, I know there was the deep ball to Marv. He was wide open. The drive right before halftime, I thought was the most impressive. I thought he threw into some windows there, which I'll get into later in the show. I think is something that does concern me a little bit with this team, is that they don't really ask him to throw into windows too much. So, but again, we'll get into that a little bit later. I do think that I noticed Kyle McCord's special trait that that's a big thing for Ryan Day. He says a quarterback needs to have a special trait to be my quarterback. And when he was asked about it, he said Kyle's special trait was consistency. I think that Kyle's special trait may actually be his arm strength. I think that you can get receivers over the top of the defense, and he can throw the ball over the top of the defense. So I love that from him. I love what I saw from him. He's super poised, and I think that may bode well in some of the big games later. Obviously, there was the video that came out of the Ohio State hype video where Kyle McCord was giving a passionate speech in the locker room. And I mean, honestly, not even just from the quarterback, but I feel like that's something that our team overall has been missing. So if he's got that kind of energy, I love that from him. And then looking at Devin Brown, he obviously got to play some in this game. I think he got to play like the whole fourth quarter. I think Devin Brown had the best throw of the day. Again, I was one who was like touting Devin Brown early. I'm not doing that by saying that, but I'm going to tell the truth. And the ball that he threw to Carnell Tate was the best throw from either quarterback in the day. There was a defender on him, put it right over his shoulder on the money, right on the pylon basically, for a touchdown. Which it was Devin Brown's first touchdown, and also Carnell Tate's first touchdown. I do think that Devin Brown struggles to throw the ball over the middle though. We saw in the last game, in the last game when he was trying to throw over the middle to Emeka, he missed him a few times. And then in this game, when he did go to throw the ball over the middle, it got batted down, ended up being an interception. So again, I think that may be where Devin Brown struggles the most. But he's got plenty of time now, and I think that Ryan Day has shown us something that he hasn't shown us in a while, which is he wants to get these guys in there and get them reps, because he really kind of screwed the pooch last year with Kyle McCord, not letting him get more reps in the blowout games. So again, that was A grade for the quarterbacks. Some mistakes, but they played pretty well overall. And then I'm going to move on to the running backs now. I actually graded the running backs out as an A plus. I felt like they played really well. I don't really think that there was too many mistakes from the running backs. I think that Travion Henderson is back to like his original form. He's back to being himself, and I think that that's dangerous for teams because he's older now. He's more mature. His vision does look better. I know that people want to hate on him from last year and the first game of this year and say, "Oh, Trey has no vision," but that's just simply not true. I think they need to run plays that are going to be beneficial to him, because in the first game I kind of charted the runs, and it was like 90% of the runs were stretch runs into the boundary. Excuse me, which is just not going to work for a guy like Trey. You got to give him space or get him in between the tackles where he can make one cut and go. And then the other two running backs, Chip Trainum and Chip Trainum and Mayan Williams. Chip, he had a run in this game where, to me, he reminded me of like some of the OSU great running backs. I'm thinking like Carlos Hyde. I'm thinking like Ezekiel Elliott, Beanie Wells, where he grabbed the ball and hit the hole. He did a little cutback, but he hit the hole and he was gone. Nobody touched him the rest of the way. I love that from him. And those are the types of runs that happen in the big games, I think. Like when you're playing against Notre Dame, Michigan, those are the types of runs that put the game away late in the game. And so I love seeing that from him. I think he may be just as fast as Trey in terms of like top speed. Trey is definitely a little quicker, a little more shifty. And then obviously the third back that we see in all the games is going to be Mayan Williams. He don't look healthy right now to me. He looks like he's kind of dragging along a little bit. We know what Mayan brings to the table. I mean, I could see him in this Notre Dame game getting a lot of carries because he's going to wear the defense down and cause problems. All right, so that's it for the running backs. I'm going to move on to the O line. Before I do that, if you guys are in the stream here, type in the chat. Let me know what you want to hear. Ask questions, anything like that. And I'll be happy to answer them. Some interaction would be nice, especially for my first stream. Like I said, a little bit nervous going live. I know I've been recording, but it's a little different when you're live and people can kind of talk back to you right away. All right, so getting to the offensive line. I graded the offensive line out as a B overall. I feel like they played better, and I think that this offensive line is starting to gel, and they're starting to come together as a unit. Obviously, Western Kentucky's front is not good, so I'm not going to put too much credit there. But there was a couple penalties that I think were avoidable. And obviously, that was one of the things with Josh Simmons coming in from San Diego State is he had like 17 penalties last year, and he's probably on pace to beat that this year, honestly. But again, he's still getting used to this level of play, playing left tackle for the first time. I really like Josh Simmons, actually. I know a lot of people have kind of hated on him or not really like what they've seen from him. But I think that he's the type of athlete in that position where when you're playing against really good players, he's going to be able to hold his own. And, he may have a penalty here and there, but, I mean, we're not looking for perfection. They just need to keep getting better as the year goes on. Another thing that I saw from the offensive line that I really liked, I saw some energy out of them. I don't know if this, one of the things Ryan Day said was that he kind of ramped up the intensity in practice this week. But I saw that from the offensive line. I've seen Carson Hinsman, the center. I seen the center Carson Hinsman when there was like a third down run and they got the first down. I saw him like pumping his arm, getting hype. I love that. I love the energy that's on this team right now because honestly, the first two games just wasn't there, and I think that was part of the problem. Maybe that was something that Ryan Day had planned to just kind of like let's get through the first two games and then we'll ramp it up. I don't know, but they need to keep that energy going into Big Ten play, and obviously with this Notre Dame game was a big one this weekend. All right, so moving on to the last position on offense, the tight ends. Um, I graded them out as a B because I did see some missed blocks and things like that. But overall, I do think they played well. Obviously, Cade Stover had a decent day receiving. Let me see where he finished at. He finished with 90 yards, which I didn't even know he had 90 yards. That's crazy. He was the second leading receiver on the team in this game. It was Marv with 126, Cade with 90, and then Emeka with 57. But also seeing Cade Stover miss some blocks, and I don't know what it is with him this year, but it seems like he's been very indifferent to blocking. I know that he talks like he's a tough guy, and they tout him up like he's a tough guy, which I do believe he's tough, living the farm life and all that good stuff. But I think that he just needs to get out there and hit someone. I feel like a lot of the times when he's trying to block, he's trying to set up and get in the perfect position and let the player come to him. And I think that maybe he just needs to get to that player and try to push that guy out of the play. And then the other tight end that we see a lot of is G. Scott. We haven't seen a ton of him in the receiving game. I don't know I don't know why. It doesn't really make sense to me because you would think with him being a former receiver that he would be the guy to go to in the receiving game for a tight end. But it seems like they use him more as a blocker or like getting him out in the flats and on like third down and fourth down and stuff, which is fine if that stuff is going to work. It's okay. But I've been super impressed with G as a person. He obviously the thing came up where his dad told him he should transfer. He said, "I'm not doing that. The reason why I'm not playing at Ohio State is because of me, not because of Ohio State. So I need to do what I have to do." And he seems like he's done that, and he's become one of the best blockers on this team, honestly. And you know what? I actually skipped over one offensive position, the main one on this team, the Ohio State's wide receivers. I graded them out as an A for this game. Just a couple quick notes that I have for the players in that position group. I have Marv looks like he learned how to get separation. Last year, he was obviously the best receiver in the country, projected to be a top 5 pick. But one of the things he needed to work on was getting separation in one on ones, so that he didn't have to make some crazy catch every single time he got the ball. I think he's done that this year. We've seen him streaking down the field wide open, and I mean, some of that's probably due to scheming, but I know that his routes look crisp. He looks really fast. He looks faster this year than he did last year, and obviously the hands are still there. So, Marv's one of the best probably to ever do it in college. So moving over to Emeka. Emeka just has been a consistent baller since he's been here. I love his route running. When he's motioning across the field, he's changing everything the defense is doing because he's fast and can make you miss. So I love what we see out of Emeka, obviously. And then moving on, Julian Fleming. I think that Julian found his identity, and I think this might actually be one of the most important things for this Ohio State team. A lot of people have down talked Julian Fleming. He had a couple bad games. The one thing about him, he showed up big in every single big game that Ohio State's had since he's been there. Every big game that he played in, he was out there making catches, not making mistakes. And his identity now, I think, is just to be a tough ass receiver who is going to hit you in the mouth. And that's what he's been doing this whole year so far. People have talked about the perimeter blocking being an issue, but not with Julian Fleming. He's throwing dudes out to play, and I think that's what he needed to do because he's not an elite wide receiver in terms of like route running and ability to catch the ball, yards after catch, and all that stuff. But he's moving himself into that elite category by being an elite blocker, and you need all of that on a team. And then the last wide receiver I wanted to talk about was Carnell Tate. I had a prediction in one of my shows about him this weekend that he would have like 2 touchdowns or something like that. I wanted to see him featured, which is still true. And he did get a touchdown. With his first touchdown was a Buckeye. That was awesome. I think Carnell Tate is an elite route runner, and I want to see them get him the ball in space because I really think that he could be dangerous and he could house some stuff. So I'm hoping to see that from him going forward. But I think that the rotation they have right now with Carnell Tate and Julian Fleming, I think that it's a good thing. I think that it's going to keep teams on their heels, and I think that having that blocker who is just going to throw you out the club, rotating in with that guy who's going to route you up and catch the ball over you. I mean, what else can you ask for from a wide receiver room? All right, so that was it for the offense. Moving on to the defense now. The first position I wanted to talk about was the defensive tackles. I personally think that this defensive tackle unit has been the most dominant unit on this team so far. You look at guys like Tyleik Williams, Michael Hall, and Ty Hamilton. I think they each have their own skill sets. The most rounded of them all is probably Tyleik Williams. I know that people thought it was going to be Mike Hall, but Tyleik Williams has been balling this year. And, I heard from a lot of the beat reporters before the year, they were talking real negative about him. They were saying things like, oh, he is on thin ice and he doesn't work hard in practice. And they're still saying some of that stuff. But the problem with it is that he is obviously doing that stuff or he wouldn't be playing as well as he is now. And I think Tyleik has an argument to be the best defensive player on this team. Him and Denzel Burke, who we'll get into a little bit later in the show here. And then obviously, Mike Hall didn't have a big game against Western Kentucky. You didn't really hear his name called, but I do expect him to show up big in the Notre Dame game, Penn State game, Big Ten play. I think that he's going to be a dominant player, and it's just a matter of does he get the stats in this game or not. Then the last defensive tackle I want to talk about, Ty Hamilton. I think he's going to be a problem for teams like Notre Dame and Wisconsin, things like that. Teams who want to run the ball. Ty Hamilton is a big body, and I mean he gets his hands on people and he moves them out of the way, and he doesn't get moved even in double teams. So again, I think that's probably the best unit on the team so far, rivaled with the corners. I think in terms of just defense. Moving on to the defensive ends, I graded them out as a B for this game. They were like the hot topic this week for some reason. It's like they named the starting quarterback, and everybody said, "Oh, the defensive ends suck," and I don't know where that came from because I feel like they've been solid all year. They've been doing their job. I do know that Jim Knowles is asking them to do some different things this year, not just get after the passer, which when you got them dropping back into coverage or you know holding the edge, anything like that, you're just not going to see the production that you expect to see or that you want to see. But I think that this game we did. The production didn't come in terms of sack numbers. I think the only sack this game by a defensive end was from Mitchell Melton, who I'll get into him in a minute. But Mitchell Melton looks freaky, and I think he might need some more first team reps. Um, but uh, I do think that the defensive ends are going to show up big in big games. When quarterbacks start taking uh, like 5-step drops, sitting in the pocket, trying to make plays out of the pocket, I think that you're going to see JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer start to get into some sacks and make some big plays like strip sacks and things like that. Let's see. Well, like I was saying, I'll get into like the backups a little bit. The I think that this is probably the most deep Ohio State team that I've seen in terms of talent, and I like to say that this is Ryan Day's first team with his players. I know, when you take over a team, it's your players. Obviously, the guys that Ryan Day has been winning with are his players, but a lot of those guys that were left on the team that were like fourth year and fifth year guys, them guys were people that Urban Meyer brought in, and I think Ryan Day is the type of coach that tries to do guys a good service by letting them have the opportunity to play and get trying to get them to the NFL, even if they've already been here 4 years and are just not showing it. But sometimes those things work out. We'll talk about that when we get into the safety position with Josh Proctor. But in terms of in terms of the defensive ends depth, looking at guys like Kenyatta Jackson, Caden Curry, see Mitchell Melton, I think those guys are going to be a problem going forward. I really think that Kenyatta Jackson has looked solid. Caden Curry is just guy's got a motor. I mean, he's constantly getting after the quarterback. You're seeing him make plays when he maybe gets too far upfield, coming back and still getting to the quarterback. And then Mitchell Melton looks like the fastest defensive end on the team. I can see why Jim Knowles wanted him to be that jack position that they talked about so much last year. Obviously, he got injured and he didn't get to do it, and they put Jack Sawyer in that role. But I think that the difference in speed between Jack Sawyer and Mitchell Melton is so great that I really don't even understand why they would have put Jack Sawyer in that position in the first place. They could have used maybe really anybody other than that because, he just simply wasn't fast enough to play that position. And it showed up in games like the Michigan game when they completed a pass on the sideline and Jack Sawyer really should have got there to make the tackle. Cam Brown should have made the tackle, but if that was Mitchell Melton in that position, I wholeheartedly believe that he would have got Cornelius Johnson to the ground or at least pushed him out of bounds on that play. So I want to see Mitchell Melton get more playing time. Like I said, he is definitely a freaky athlete out there, and I hope that he can stay healthy this year because down the home stretch, I think that he could be a problem for some teams. All right, let's get into the linebackers now. I graded the linebackers out at A+. I think Tommy and Steele are in midseason form now. The first couple games it was a little wonky, but they were going against some wonky offenses. And I was a little worried about them, honestly, being against a pass-heavy team like Western Kentucky. But, excuse me, but they really showed up. And, Steele was everywhere, making interceptions, hitting guys in the backfield. He even had a tip pass that I'm guessing most people didn't even see that he tipped. So, again, respect to Steele. I probably owe Steele an apology because I was one of the ones that was calling for CJ Hicks, which I do still want to see him get playing time and develop into a really good player. But I think Steele's playing phenomenal right now. And I hope that that continues into some games where we have athletes that are more matched up. And then Tommy, again, another guy who you just felt like was everywhere. And the best thing about Tommy to me is that he diagnoses defenses so quickly and he does not miss tackles. And I think that Tommy, you might not notice it much on TV, but I think that people feel it when Tommy hits them. I think that when you're running to the sideline, Tommy hits you out of bounds. Those hits hurt and those hits take a toll on running backs and even quarterbacks in those situations. So moving on from the linebackers now to the safeties. This is like the most interesting position on this team because honestly, I don't even know. I don't even know who the starter is at free safety. I'm gonna assume it's Josh Proctor. He's played really well, and I think that he deserves to play from what I've seen. Even though he's like that 5th year, 6th year senior guy, most people don't want to see those guys get out there because they're not good enough. The thing with Josh Proctor, he hasn't been healthy his whole time at Ohio State, and then he's came in the game and just simply made mistakes. And I think that Ohio State was not with that. I don't know if that was like off the field stuff where he just needed to get better in practice and just learn more. But again, I love what I'm seeing out of him this year. He got his hands on a ball in the Indiana game on a 4th down that I thought was a really good play. He got his hands on a ball in this game that should have been interception, but Tommy actually made like a pass breakup and knocked it out of his hands, kind of fought through his hands, which again, he didn't know he was there, so it's whatever. It is what it is. And I think Proctor has that fire to him that we need on this team, man. Like when that happened, when the ball got knocked out of his hands, he was pissed, and he was showing that he was pissed. And everybody came up to him and was like congratulating him on knocking the ball down. But you could tell that he was pissed off that it wasn't an interception. So I love that fire from him, and I think that this team just needs that overall. And then you have Lathan. Obviously Lathan's been a solid player his whole time here. I forgot to say this. I graded the safeties out as an A, but Lathan's been a solid player. He made a couple mistakes in big games last year, which I hope that he's cleaned that up. I think this year is probably his first year with a full off season at Ohio State because he's been injured. So I I was worried about Lathan against a team that was going to throw as much as Western Kentucky, but I mean he was balling out there. He was out there smacking people, taking heads off, and again, I just love what I see from him. And then the last safety I want to talk about is Sonny Styles. We didn't really see much of him in this game, just because he was uh, he plays that like nickel position and they move him around a lot. So really, he's more like a third linebacker slash safety. Um, and they prove that now because playing against a passing team like Western Kentucky, they put Jordan Hancock out there, and Sonny didn't really play much until late in the game when the game was over, which I'm fine with as long as when we take Sonny off the field, if our defense is not seeing a dip or a decline, then I'm okay with Sonny Styles coming off the field for that true nickel corner because that's kind of what killed us last year was that slot wide receiver position. Teams that had a fast guy or a really good receiver in that spot kind of tore our defense up. And you know, as good as Sonny is, I don't really want him guarding, that a guy from like Arian Smith from Georgia who's like a 4.3 speed guy. I know Sonny's fast and he can hold his own, but again, if you can have a corner in that position who is really good at coverage, and that's what they've spent their whole entire life, or their whole entire time developing into, then that's going to ultimately benefit the team. And if that guy is not a mark, then having Sonny off the field is not a problem. And then the last position here, the corners, I graded them out as an A. I think Denzel Burke looks like a top 3 corner in college football. Honestly, I mean, I had a tweet that I went back and found and retweeted where in the summertime I said that Denzel Burke was going to be the best corner in the Big Ten. I still believe that. I think that he's been playing phenomenal, and nobody can take that away from him. He's aggressive at the point of attack, and he's been willing to tackle. And honestly, I mean, I just can't say enough good things about him. So many people hated on him last year, and I think that he even played good last year in the big games, but people don't want to talk about that because our defense was getting torched. And then moving on to Davis Nigbinosin, he's been very consistent. I think you know what you're getting from him. We haven't seen any like splash plays from him where he makes an interception or anything like that, but he's been consistent. He's going to get the guy to the ground, and he's doing exactly what he's asked to do. And then the last guy was Jordan Hancock in that nickel position. Having a guy who is really good in coverage and is willing to hit is huge in that spot. And Hancock reminds me a lot of Sean Wade, honestly, the way that he plays. I want to see him get into more stuff like maybe blitz him off the edge and things like that. And I think that he's going to be a real force for this defense. The last corner I wanted to talk about before I move on, uh, true freshman Jermaine Matthews, man. I was so hyped during the game when he got that pick six and I seen him running down the sideline. It's just one of them kids that I just want to see succeed so bad. And every time that he's gotten the game this year, he looks like a baller, man. Like I'm excited. I'm excited for him. I think that BIA is back already. I don't think that it's being brought back. I think it is back. I think we have one of the best secondaries in the country right now, and I don't see that changing with guys like Jermaine Matthews, Calvin Simpson Hunt, who are already on the team. Um, a guy who nobody talks about anymore, Jair Brown. He's been a baller his career too. So again, we got some good recruits coming in with Aaron Scott and Bryce West. I think that this team is in for having a good secondary for a long time. And if you have a good secondary, it's really easy to have a good defense because if you can shut down the pass game, it's going to be hard for teams to move the ball on you. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to get into here because I just wanted to have a short show for my first time. I feel like it's going well so far. Um, the overall thoughts of of this game and kind of going forward for the team. I have like positive and negative. This is it's just a little segment here where I wanted to. I don't think everything is sunshine and rainbows now just because of we beat Western Kentucky by a lot. The offense still really only scored 49 points, which I mean it's good, but whatever. The defense scored the other 14 points. So for the positives, I like how the offense has been more multiple in the run game, and I think that it's showing in the success of the what the team is doing. The defense has shown the ability to stop the offenses in multiple ways. So we've seen a triple option team. We've seen a team that mostly runs the ball and a team that passes the ball a lot. And the defense has held their own in every single game, and they only given up 20 points through 3 games. I don't think you can ask for more. So let me see here. The next thing I had on here for a positive, I love that we don't have a mark on this defense, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Like last year, if it was 3rd down and 8, I feel like the defense was gonna go after Tanner McAllister, and he really never came off the field, which is crazy. I went through the Georgia game and looked up stats, and basically every drive where Sonny Styles didn't play a snap, Georgia scored, and then there was only one drive where they did score where he played a snap, and he only came in the game with when they already were on the 10-yard line going into the end zone ready to score. So um, again, I never hated Tanner McAllister. He did okay. He kind of did his job, whatever. He knew the defense, so I think he probably helped in that sense. But I do think that he was a mark on this defense. Any big game, playing against Michigan, Penn State, Georgia, he was kind of getting picked on, and I think that he just I don't think that he was the caliber athlete to compete with the athletes that those guys had. All right, and then let's see here. The last thing, the athletic ability on this defense, I think, is like significantly higher than last year, and I think that's one of the biggest things that's making this defense be really good. Is we just have athletes out there that are freak athletes that are getting to the ball faster, and they all know the defense well now, so they're all they're reacting to the play quick. I'm loving what I see from them. Now I'm going to move on from that though. Again, that was just a couple positives that I've noticed especially from this game. Obviously, there were some issues in the games before that, and then the negatives are like things that I'm worried about. The offense still scares me some, and the reason for that is because we did a lot of like dink and dunk passes and a lot of running the ball against Western Kentucky. Now, if a team is able to stop our running game, I don't know if that dink and dunk pass game is going to work. I've been up and down with this because um, I remember when Ohio State played against Alabama in the national championship, and Alabama was moving their receivers around constantly, getting them the ball in the flats, getting them the ball on short routes, and they were dominating Ohio State's offense. And Ohio State can be that. I don't know. That's not really Ryan Day's forte, so I don't know what kind of knowledge and ability that Ryan Day has in that sense. But I do know that that's what we've been doing so far, and it worries me that maybe the reason for that is my next point, which is I'm worried about Kyle McCord throwing into like NFL, really college windows, but especially NFL windows when we start playing against good teams. Because there was even the play where he fumbled. Obviously, he's going to learn from that. But I think Marv was open on that play in terms of like even like a college window. He looked like he had his guy beat over the middle. You don't really know till you watch all the all 22 film or whatnot, but it looked like Marv was open and Kyle didn't throw it because he was not open enough. And most of the times when he throws the ball to people, they're open by like 5 yards, or it's like a little toss to the flats, or like a curl route where the defenders playing off. Those things are all good, and that's fine. But once we play a team that tackles well and is getting those guys to the ground right away once they catch the ball, that's something that is the offense could really stall in that situation. So I hopefully we see more of Kyle McCord making, I guess, a little bit riskier throws when we get into this Notre Dame game and into Big Ten play. Obviously, as his confidence grows, I think that will happen. But it scares me if it doesn't happen because we've seen the offense kind of get shut down versus Indiana, and I think that was kind of part of the problem is that Indiana's guys were not just letting people run free, and Kyle did a lot of check downs and things like that. I hope that doesn't come out in big games, but I mean, if it does, then it's going to be up to Ryan Day to scheme the team through the season, scheme guys open, and get your athletes into space so that way they can make plays, because we have the wide receivers and the running backs to make those plays. I just again, it's hard to just completely out scheme a team. Sometimes you need someone with that baller mentality to just make a play. And I'm not saying Kyle doesn't have that. I hope he does, but I just haven't seen it yet. Other than the drive right before halftime, that's why I've told everyone that drive right before halftime really impressed me. You saw Kyle McCord make a throw into a window to Cade Stover over the middle. I think another one on the sideline, and I think he was just getting into rhythm, and he was, and that's what I want to see from him more often. They came out in the second half and they went 0 for 2 on scoring drives to start the second half. So again, the offense doesn't terrify me, but at the same time, I'm not confident in it to say that this team is going to be able to score 30 points on a really good defense. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. We didn't have too many people in here in the chat or anything today, but I do plan on going live probably every day, at least every other day. We'll see how it works out here. As always, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Come back for more content. Peace out.